back to just me.
It's back to just you, isn't it? Right. Good. Now then, Chrishmal, lots of things happening. The people have given a 2/3. Fair enough, it's 2/3. They have given a president a big majority, and so things should be hunky-dory. Nobody bargained on COVID-19, so the entire world, neither did the entire world. So in a way we are all kind of equal, new normal. But now there's something called the 20th Amendment happening, and it's almost like the penny is dropped and it's going ding, you know. So I want to know, nobody ever told people the level, the intensity of the changes. That's not spelled out in anybody's, it's only in anybody's manifesto. It's only a very big thing, you know, we'd like to have a 2/3 because we want strong government. So what is this? What is your analysis of this?
Once again, thank you, Faraz, for inviting me. After a while, after that early of the election campaigning, as Faraz said, so talking of almost 2/3 and the President's mandate, may I take 30 seconds, Faraz, to say thank you to all of you who opted not to have me or the party I represented in Parliament, and because we've been taught to be humble in victory, but also be magnanimous in defeat.
Absolutely.
And take a moment to wish all of those people who found way into the legislative arm of government. So people have spoken, as you say, loud and clear, and almost 2/3 majority. So I have now retired back to the judicial arm of government, where I think I belong, because the people have said they don't need my services in the legislative arm of government. So that's insofar as I'm concerned. Personally, we must permit the will of the people, and that appears to be the will of the people, the majority. Now you bring us to a good question, because when you say the will of the people, for us, it's important for us to figure out these two terms. We use them very loosely, as to government and state. See now, because as I said, the majority has opted that the United National Party that I represented shouldn't even have one member in Parliament. We are not in Parliament. So Parliament, there is a government now. A government in our constitution is defined as the party, the cabinet, president, those who form government. But in a Westminster style democracy, when we speak of parliamentary democracy, the opposition also forms part of that legislative process. So now in the legislature that the people have elected, we are not represented. For example, I am not represented. My party is not represented. My view is not represented. Now they may very well have the 2/3 that you say, or close to the 2/3, or garner with a few other votes joining in the 2/3 that are necessary. And the Attorney General has now given an opinion. I'll go to that in a minute. Now that does not, now that is government and Parliament, right?
Yeah.
But that is not the state that I belong to, you belong to. We are not there, no.
Yeah.
We are not there. Now, the question is whether the 20th Amendment and the proposals that you speak of now, Faraz, were placed before the state. You see, the government has been formed now. If it's only the government and those people in Parliament who are going to now decide on whether to bring, I'm starting at bringing the 20th Amendment, going even before actually challenging the Supreme Court. There are several steps in the process that are before us. But right now, even to usher in this so-called draft bill, so is it only the view of those 225 members, the majority whom the people have voted in Parliament? That's a question for the people. You see, I'm placing it for the people. See, now a majority of you have decided that you must give this majoritarian opinion to form a government in Parliament to one party. So now if that's your will that you must have all these amendments, then we must allow you to have that. As a government, as a government. As a member of the state, I may be unhappy with some of these provisions. But democracy, we see, we are a democratic socialist republic of Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Now for us, when you interpret constitutions and constitutional provisions, I don't think I'll be overstretching myself legal jargon too much, but there is something called, you look at the spirit of the constitution. You don't interpret constitutions like other laws. Constitution, other laws.
You can't take it piecemeal.
Yeah. No, also you don't strictly enforce just one part of a constitution, unlike say other laws such as rent and ejectment or partition or whatever, which is you go into the strict sense of the word of the law. But in the constitution, it's more dynamic.
Right.
You look at the spirit of what is a democratic socialist republic. Is the democratic socialist republic then a view of only the majority in parliament, or must you go beyond that? So when we visit these constitutional provisions that are proposed, what the people, I place it once again before the people. If a majority of you feel that this is a sort of government, the executive power, the almost unchecked, untrammeled executive power that is proposed in the amendments that you want, then you may be happy with it because you have voted that majority government in. But what about us who are not represented there? Or what about people like, and I am certainly not happy with some of the provisions.
Yeah.
So what happens to that view? Now can that only be then traversed in parliament? Because we are not in parliament. Now the people opted not to have us in parliament. So these are questions that we'll have to grapple with.
Now, we've had several questions from this afternoon when we sent out the card announcing the arrival of Chrishmal Warnasuriya on my set. You obviously have a big fan club from those whom you flew with on Air Lanka and so on. And thank you for watching. At least if it takes Chrishmal to get you to start watching, I think we've won the game.
Well, very quickly, thank you for even the minority that voted for me. Thank you very much.
Now Chrishmal, there are several issues. Some people are raising the issue about the transfer of power to the president. So it's presidential centric. The proposed changes on the amendment. I know that you've not had enough time to do a comparative study and so on, and to comment in detail. But from the top, is it a good idea to have so much of, as you used, untrammeled power centered on the one individual? I don't mean President Gotabaya. It can be any president.
So you see, that's the point. You don't make constitutions for governments for us. That's you hit the nail on the head. See, I've said this example over and over again for the American Constitution. Not that I think it's a doyen or pillar of democracy, but it's over 300 years old, and they have had, not even 1/4 of the amendments that we've had over just a short history of constitution.
Yeah.
Because their constitutions was not made to put a government in force or to make a government stronger.
Yeah.
So as you said, we are not talking of figure A, B or C. Constitutions are not made for a government of the day. Now I believe to an extent the earlier government also made this mistake. By the 19th Amendment, they tried to make way for certain governmental functions. Constitutions are not amended or made for a government or political expediency. Constitutions are made for years and years and generations ahead.
That's because they look at the spirit of the intent.
So coming back to what now, as you said, we haven't, now I belong to a party, so when I'm here, I must speak responsibly. We have, I'm also part of that little committee. We are studying this in detail. We will come out as United National Party, will come out with our view on the proposed amendments. We haven't read this in detail to do that yet. But as to what is floating around on WhatsApp groups and what people send and all that, I've understood it to mean that, I've had a cursory glance before I came for us, after you invited me. I've had a cursory glance of it. There appears to be a more centric force bringing back the powers that we devolved into more democratic arms of government, such as the commissions or such as the appointments of Prime Minister and removal and all that, then removal of office from certain public officials like judges, IGP, AG, all that. There seems to be more centric on the executive president. Now, number one is the people must decide, is this what you want? Did you know this before the election? For example, you may say, well, we gave a majority to this government to do as they will. If that is so, then you must be happy. Whatever amendments, if you feel, well, they should have a free for all, that's fine. However, if you feel, well, no, we did not know that these drastic amendments were going to be the order of the day. We wanted a strong government. We wanted our bread and butter tomorrow. We wanted post-COVID-19 a strong government that will solve economic problems.
But Chrishmal, do we really want one person appointing the Chief Justice, the judges, the Chief of Police, and then he, by implication, we are giving him, do we want somebody to have the right, sole right, to hire and fire?
Permit me to finish what I was just trying to say. So, as I was trying to say earlier, was a strong government to alleviate economic problems and build up the country doesn't necessarily require a new constitution. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, this new constitution, if, as you say, the powers have been centric on one person to appoint people and hire and fire and all that. As I said, I haven't read details of this. I will have to come another day when I've had a detailed analysis of this and a comparative study of what the 19th was and what the 20th is proposed to be. We can have that detailed discussion. But for the moment, as you say, I do not believe democratic values allow just one person to make all these decisions. Why, for example, if you take my arm of government, judicial arm of government, I certainly wouldn't want the judiciary to be influenced by an opinion that, well, there is one person making appointments, he or she is deciding on my future, therefore I must be careful when I determine certain cases. Now, that is what, through the system of checks and balances in constitutionalism and the separation of powers, the principle is that you must keep these branches separate. For example, particularly executive arm of government, where there is executive government like America and France, on which we say we modeled our system, they have complete separation so that they are not permitted to influence. That's why in America judges go on till they die. Judges, unless they impeached or they retired due to ill health or public whatever, they don't now. Unlike here at 65 they have to go. America, they go on for life. You know why? Because even that they don't want an impediment on the judges. Once they are appointed to the Supreme Court, you're there. And that is why a judge's appointment must be vetted by the Senate Judicial Committee. The President can nominate. But you have to go before a Senate Judiciary Committee and they must vote. And all of them. So the Senate consists the Republicans and the Democrats and everyone else. They must all vote and this judge is fit to hold office. That is how democracy has ensured that one person doesn't decide on appellate judicial appointment. Now similarly, it can come to other officers. So if the present amendments actually contemplate that, then I will have a serious problem with it. Once again I say, if the majority of the people have no problem with it, then it's a people's power.
Chrishmal, it's a terribly interesting explanation that you're giving. Unfortunately, it's time to go for a break. We'll come back and discuss that with you. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline Live.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukataly.
I'm different to you. I'm doing a 100% Middlesex University Bridge degree with no compromise in Sri Lanka. How about you? Call 07-1115-1234 to enroll now.
Inclement weather in the seas 30 nautical miles off the Sangaman-Kanda area. Fire reignites aboard the empty New Diamond. Large-scale illegal acquisition of land in Hambantota. Enforce the law, a direction from the District Development Committee. Commissions were unsuccessful. President needs the 20th Amendment to work. A statement from the Minister of Justice. Samagi Jana Balavega unanimously decides to defeat the 20th Amendment. Court permits Premalal Jayasekara to attend parliamentary sittings. Showery conditions to reduce. Wind speeds to increase.
I'm different to you. I'm doing a 100% Middlesex University Bridge degree with no compromise in Sri Lanka. How about you? Call 07-1115-1234 to enroll now.
TB1 Rasvidina Jivite.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukataly.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. We're in conversation with Mr. Chrishmal Warnasuriya. Several questions Chrishmal has been sent here. Let me go through them all. They're very short ones, but because I think the answers are kind of related. The National Audit Commission and the National Procurement Commission have been proposed to be abolished. Is this a good move? High appointments. The President now has the power to appoint Attorney General, the IGP and other top jobs at state level. There was previously criticism regarding the inability to remove the previous IGP from office after the 21st of April attacks. Now that particular question, Chrishmal, surely the holder of that office, these are allegations. It has to be proven in a court of law and so on and so forth. Is it right to remove him from office?
Yeah, once again, I say, what is the ethos of constitution making as opposed to those questions that have been posed?
Yeah.
Now, if you prefer an almost dictatorial form of government, where you don't permit a lot of decision making and discussion and input from a lot of people, but you want a centurion, an authoritarian figure, making decisions, well, I hire and I fire and I get someone else in and you do the job. If that's the sort of government that you want, then you must be happy with that. You must be happy with that. What the 19th Amendment purported to do or tried to do was to bring in a more decision-making process and sort of insulate those officers, some high officers like the IGP, AG, judges, appointments and all of that, so that one person alone was not making decisions. Commissions were one. However, I agree with the criticism that some of those commissions did not or failed to achieve the desired objectives.
Well, yes, like the Elections Commission.
Well, one example may be that we had that Supreme Court case just during the election time or just before. I remember where they were represented by different councils. Different commissioners were represented by different council laws.
Yeah.
The team couldn't bat together.
Correct.
Right. So now there were critiques of the commission. Some of the commissions not functioning properly. I myself, as a candidate in the last election, I have a serious problem with the Elections Commission did their duty in ensuring a free and fair election, or whether they were partisan. Now that's a different story.
Yeah.
However, what I'm trying to say is, if at all if that is the form of government that you wish for, that you want an authoritarian figure, just a one-off figure making quick decisions, then, well, you ought to have that. But remember, we are a democratic socialist republic. We have based our fundamentals on principles of democracy. Now, on fundamentals of democracy, for us, you can't have systems like that. So, although I will just maybe, I'm even preempting myself here by saying this. Now, although the Honorable Attorney General appears to have given some opinion saying that you can pass this only with a 2/3 majority and not bring it before the people, I am offered the contrary opinion. Of course, as said, I haven't read the details of it. I need to have a detailed study of it. Because there are certain provisions that Parliament alone by a 2/3 can't decide. The Constitution itself requires it to be referred to the people. Now remember, Honorable Attorney General is also, although we speak of an Attorney General, he may have given an opinion, that's a lawyer's opinion. Attorney General should not be looked as one person, it's a department. It's a department of the government that is the chief law office of the government of the day. They advise the government. Now we are opposed to the Attorney General every day in court for us. Sometimes Attorney General has a different opinion, we have a different opinion. If you remember that last case of the last president, Attorney General came to court and said that president had 6 years. We went and argued he had 5. Court held with us. Attorney General is wrong. So just because the Honorable Attorney General gives an opinion doesn't mean that that is law. If the court says that is so, that's different. But Attorney General's opinion,
that's his opinion.
Yeah, Attorney General's opinion is also opinion. That must be tested in a court of law. So these if what I cursorily read is correct, these drastic provisions that go to amending the spirit of our constitution, I do not think that Parliament alone must decide that. It must be taken before the people.
Now then, this is probably member of your fan club. Two questions. I'll take the latest one first. Why doesn't Chrishmal Warnasuriya ask for the leadership of the United National Party now that there is a vacancy looming and he would be the best person, being a lawyer, etc.?
They're much more senior people to me. Thank you very much for the confidence reposed in me. I've seen some similar comments on Facebook, but you must remember that I was never a political person. I was never a member of a party. I became a member of a political party because I thought that I must represent you in Parliament. However, I am a very junior member of the UNP. There are much more senior people than I. But certainly, I will help those in leadership.
This next question is a bit more intense. Chrishmal Warnasuriya was rather vociferous when it came to Ranil Wickremesinghe and the scam of the last few years. What made you change your mind and join Ranil after all that?
I didn't join Ranil Wickremesinghe. I joined the United National Party. The party started by D.S. Senanayake, another Thomian like me. And Ranil Wickremesinghe was the leader of that party. My critique of the Wickremesinghe government, of that scam that you refer to, remains the same. It has always remained the same, and I will continuously agitate to bring perpetrators to justice. But then your question itself deserves an answer from the people. You see, have the people actually insisted that these perpetrators be brought to book? There is a common sentiment that people are rubbing each other on the back, and governments come, governments go. When they come, these fellows look after the others, other fellows look after these fellows. You yourselves have said this on several social media. And has, other than continuous inquiries, tell me one person over the last, I am now 49 years old, I can't remember any time in history a politician has been found fault for any act of corruption I can't. Can you think of anyone?
No, I can't.
So then
only before I was born.
People like us keep shouting, and perhaps people like you, some people like you may be even hearing us, but the majority don't appear to be hearing us, is it?
The only thing I've heard is what happened before I was born, when SWRD sacked some ministers, and not only sacked them from there, he had got them to leave the party for some corruption of some sort or other. Now,
So just to finish the answer to that, your viewer, if Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, the leader of the present party that I represent now, or anyone else for that matter, is found guilty before an independent judicial panel, well, I'll join hands with you and say, well, so and so is guilty. But until such time, remember, we are governed by democracy, and everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
And is that I suppose that's when is somebody finally found guilty? Is it when the entire appellate process has been exhausted?
For us, there are two schools of thought on it. You see, you are found guilty after a trial in the primary court or in case of a criminal conviction in a high court. However, one has a right of appeal. So now there are concepts like this, when say even for things like murder or high offences, or high crime, sometimes until the appeal is over, your complete judicial process has not been exhausted. So for example, we may be able to obtain bail pending appeal. We call it bail pending appeal. If you remember, I don't know how many of you remember when we were arguing the case of General Sarath Fonseca, then General Sarath Fonseca, who won a parliamentary seat, but his court-martial was over, but we were still appealing, and there were some cases going on in the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court. If I remember correctly, it was only after that final conviction and the appellate process was over that he lost his seat and another was appointed in his place, because I remember both then General Fonseca and some others were also brought to Parliament whilst they were in custody, while some appeals were pending. So there are two schools of thought. Your final judicial process is over for us when your final appeal is decided. But you are convicted no sooner a trial judge convicts you. But you have a right of appeal in certain cases, and that appellate process must exhaust itself.
Chrishmal Warnasuriya, it's been wonderful talking to you, but of course we've run out of time. All good things must come to an end, and this has been good. Thank you so much for your rather vociferous opinions. And on that note, that's the way it was.
Thank you.
Have an excellent week ahead of you. and take care. And it's time for the news now. In the meantime, as always, God bless.